Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Sipping Wealth Live. So, welcome, y'all. Welcome back, where I teach you news, tips, and tricks on how to wealth up. So, today I will be going over, navigating these IRS letters. This is really like I'd say like prime time to really receive quite a like notices from the IRS. Really between September, forward is like prime time to be receiving notices from the from the IRS. Maybe you've received a letter from the IRS in the past, or if keeping this stuff in mind if you were to receive a letter from the IRS. So I am going to be going over how to navigate when you're receiving these notices from the IRS, what to do, things that you should keep in mind. And as usual, for those of you that have questions, be sure that I am live so you can drop your questions right here in the chat. Or if you just want to be like, hey girl, what's up? Hello, I am tuned in, letting me know that you're tuned in. Because even though it does show like the views and stuff later on, I don't know if you're really tuned in with me unless you comment, let me know. All right, y'all. So I am, per usual, I'm gonna go ahead and hop in because that's what we go ahead and do. We try to just get into the nitty gritty as quick as possible, right? No delay. Yes. So the first thing to keep in mind is don't panic. All right. So don't panic at all when you are receiving these notices. Take a breather, just one deep breath. Wusa, I know, receiving notices and things like that from the IRS can be intimidating. It can be scary. But just keep in mind that, hey, they're letting you know what's going on with your account so that you can get in front of it or so that you're aware of what's going on. So it's a perfect time to read the notice and then figure out, okay, what are my steps to do next? Or go ahead and reach out to your tax preparer or accountant or a strategic tax accountants and try to navigate or get to the issue as soon as possible. So, and I want to hold on there because a lot of people they get these notices and they wait until the final notice where it's like, hey, you've owed us for this amount of time and now you're about to face a levy. And at that point in time, they're like, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe this. I have a levy coming up. Da da da. Right? A levy notice. And they say that they're going to garnish my wages and take this and take that. Well, you forgot all the other notices they sent for the past few months, almost the course of the entire year, or sometimes even multiple over the course of a year and a half, they've been sending you notices. And now you're panicking when it's the final like notice and before they start levying and garnishing stuff. So the thing is to first, remain calm and act promptly. Like, y'all, act on it, respond as quick as possible. Urgency with urgency. Because a lot of the times, especially if it's depending on the letter type, they're giving you 30 days. They're giving you 15 days. They're giving you 45 days to get them what they need so they can process. I have a client right now sitting on a tax bill from a few years ago, but for 25K, and they're out of the statute of limitation to get a refund. So that's $25,000 that they won't even be able to receive because they were sitting on notices or they were sitting on this issue that wasn't getting resolved. And then they finally come and they're like, hey, can you do this for me? And it's like, sure, yes, we still have to file the return. We still have to do that. But now this is money that you can't actually receive because you do have a 3-year statute of limitation to receive a refund. So that's why it is important to make sure that you are, actually working with urgency, a sense of urgency when it comes to filing your taxes, y'all. Or responding to the notices. All right. The other is to understand the type of letter that you're dealing with. So the most common letter is the CP 2000, and that's an income discrepancy. So this is technically a particular type of audit. where the IRS is trying to figure out, hey, what is this, what is these expenses, or what is this income that you're reflecting on, or that you're not reflecting on your tax return. We were told that so and so sent you a 1099, and that 1099 didn't appear on your tax return. So what's going on? It could be something as simple as that. But they are giving you a time period to respond to them. And when you don't, then they say, okay, we're going to take it upon ourselves to then tell you what you owe us, and then we're going to apply that bill to your balance. Next thing you know, you owe the IRS and you happen to get on a payment plan or whatever the case may be. Now you're not getting a refund for a few years because you have to make payments on that bill that you could have maybe gotten in front of. All right. And I could give you an example. I have a client. I had a client where she gave me the profit and loss statement, and we put everything on the profit and loss from the profit and loss statement. But one of the companies that we did reflect the income that was on the profit and loss statement. So the income that was with the 1099 form. So she was actually sent a 1099 form that she didn't give to us. So even though we put the income on the profit and loss within the tax return on the Schedule C, because she didn't put the attached to 1099 to the tax return, the IRS then said, hey, you owe us for the $30,000 worth of income you received from so-and-so. Well, like I said, we put that income on the Schedule C, but we didn't attach the 1099 because she didn't give the 1099 form. So it was as simple as redoing the tax return, adding the 1099 so that it's properly stated on the tax return, so that she's not having to pay an additional additional amount in taxes for the money she already had on her tax return. It could be something as simple as that. So instead of her paying, if she would have waited years and that statute of limitation ran out, she would have been out of luck. The IRS would have been like, pay us first, and then we'll decide on whether or not we're going to forgive that. So you don't want to get there. Even though, like I said, even though that income was reflected on the Schedule C, the 1099 had to be included on the tax return. So we had to make sure that, hey, that income is properly reflected the way it needs to on the tax return, so that she's not paying taxes on that money twice. So something as is like, but that's why it's important to understand the type of letter that you're receiving from the IRS, and then acting as quickly as possible. As soon as you get the first letter, act on it. Because by the second, third letter, the IRS is saying, hey, enough is enough. All right, we are about to garnish your wages and send out a levy notice. Or it could be, hey, 3 years went by. You are out of the statute of limitation. You can no longer claim a refund. Now you just lost out of money that you could have earned or received a refund of the tax money that you paid, but you can't because you waited too long to act on the notice, right? So like I said, the most common one is going to be the CP 2000, which is an income discrepancy. And then the other one is a CP 501, which is a balance due. So those are the two most common. So the IRS is either telling you, hey, you owe us some money, or hey, you're missing a form, or there's something up with the income. All right. So those are the most common. So a lot of people, they receive these notices from the IRS and they automatically panic, and they're like, oh my gosh, the IRS is writing me a letter, without even reading it. I have so many, it's funny, but not funny. So I have clients that literally, or people that will literally give me a letter from say the IRS wrote me a letter, and without even opening it. They didn't even open the letter to see what's in it, nothing. They just come and drop off the letter, or they send in the letter, and they're like, I don't know, the IRS sent me a letter. Well, let's see what the letter has to say. Don't be afraid to open these letters from the IRS, y'all. Okay? The IRS is just an agency, okay? At the end of the day, right? So you want to understand whether the letter is an inquiry on hey, what's going on, or an adjustment, because it could be, hey, we're just writing you to let you know that we received this, so we adjusted the amount due. or we didn't receive this, so we adjusted the amount due, or it can be an audit. So just really understanding, what the actual notice is. All right. The other thing to keep in mind is know your rights. All right. That goes across the board with anything when you're dealing with whether it's legal, tax, professional services, whatever the case may be. Know your rights. Okay. There's actually something called the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. Okay. You can go on the IRS website, irs.gov, search bar, Taxpayer Bill of Rights, and it will list out what are your rights. You can appeal. You have the power to appeal anything the IRS says, okay, or sends you. You do have the power to do so. You do have the power to retain representation. So myself, I'm an enrolled agent. So I have the ability to represent my clients before the Internal Revenue Service or the Department of Revenue for all tax matters. So if you're like, hey, I don't agree with this, I need an appeal. And that is completely fine. You can take it up as far as you want. Of course, you're going to have to pay for it. And there is different forms and waiting periods and all that having to do with it. But you do have rights. You do have the right to appeal and retain representation when it comes to the IRS. It's not just, oh, the IRS did this and, oh, well, that's it. No, you have rights. Okay. So know your rights. The other is check for errors. So so verify the IRS claims in the letter. So the IRS can send a notice saying, hey, we found this, this, and that. And you're like, hey, that's not the case. You can write a letter to the IRS and say, hey, Mr. IRS, Internal Revenue Service, this is a mistake. And that's completely fine. Am I live right now? Why does it say go live? I'm live, right? Yeah, okay. I see. Okay. So the IRS can say, oh yeah, I am live. Look at okay. I see likes and stuff. My bad, y'all, because the stream was acting a little wonky. Okay. Head back in. So check for errors. Excuse me. All right. Make sure you're checking for errors. Beware of scams, because there are people out here that do make it seem like they are writing or calling from the Internal Revenue Service, and they're not. So the IRS correspondence from the IRS comes through the mail. Okay, they don't email you, they don't call you. You may have like third parties that may call you, but the Internal Revenue, no. Always make sure that you are validating the letter by calling the IRS or looking for the actual barcode. I can't even show y'all this. So make sure that you are looking for the actual barcode and symbol on the tax return. It will also have, when it comes to the IRS letters, it will have barcodes throughout it. It will also have a CP number associated with the letter. But ultimately, if you're like, this don't sound right, reach out to the IRS, give them a call. Okay. So if it doesn't seem right, reach out. Don't just take it for what it is and be like, whoa, I guess that is, and then send money to some random person. But all in all, the IRS will not call you. They will not email you unless it's like, hey, we seen you uploaded something to your IRS portal, something like that. But they're not going to email you and say, hey, you owe us money. No. Okay. They're going to send you a letter and say that. Make sure that you are responding within the deadline. So typically is always a deadline associated with these notices, whether it's 30 days, 15 days, 45 days, depending on the notice and what they're needing. All right. So make sure that you respond like within the deadline period, y'all, because it can, and most of the time, lead to penalties. And then it like pushes it into a more escalated situation. All right, so it's a lot cheaper and a lot less of a headache if you respond as quickly as possible. All right. Make sure that you are providing the documents that are requested and that only requested. So the IRS, if they don't say, hey, send an additional or send a copy of the tax return, do not send a copy of the tax return because that actually delays processing. Okay, so whatever the IRS says that they need in that letter, send that. Anything outside of it extra tends to delay the processing. And it will overload the agents that are working on the case. Okay, so make sure that you are only sending what is necessary. Okay, and send anything to the IRS with certified mail with a return receipt, because now when you're speaking to the Internal Revenue agent, you can say, hey, this was sent on da 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 da, and I have proof of delivery on such and such date. That helps get things pushed through. Okay, when I tell you, when you hop on the phone and you say, hey, representative, I actually have da 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 da, they're like, oh, let's check our system. Oh, okay, we see that. Okay. Get them tripped up as much as you can. Okay. All right. Make sure you have your ducks in a row. All right. When you go into battle, you want to make sure you have all the equipment. You want to make sure you have everything necessary to go into battle. Okay. And it's the same thing when it comes to deal with the Internal Revenue Service. So you want to make sure that you do have send certified mail and with a return receipt. Okay, because this helps, like I said, with being able to show the proof of delivery. Make sure that your documents are organized. I know I say this time and time again. I know y'all just sick of me saying this, but it is so crucial that y'all that your documents are organized. It is so important. Like, this is that you have your documents, because so many, oh my gosh, it never fails. Like, so many people are stuck in their situations, or they're stuck having to pay the IRS because they don't have their documents organized. They don't have copies of a 2018 tax return, 2019 tax return. They don't have copies of their original W-2s. They don't have copies of receipts. Like, they don't have them. So what does the IRS do? The IRS says, don't worry about it. We're going to come up with what we think is the case, and then they're going to send you what they think it should be. And what they think it should be could be a lot more expensive of what you know it could be, but you don't have your documents. All right, so you do want to make sure that you have your documents in a row, y'all. Like, make sure that you are organized, keeping them. I highly recommend Excel sheets as well, just making sure that you have a kind of like a tracking system database. Mileage, people that write off mileage and all those types of deductions, keep a log. Like, the list goes on. Just make sure that you are documenting. Okay. And request an extension if you need it. If you know that, man, I need another week. I need another 2 weeks to get this stuff, or to respond to this notice or whatever. Call the IRS. It is okay to get on the phone and give the IRS a call and say, hey, I received notice, da 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 da. I need an extension of time. Okay, the worst that they can say is, hey, we're unable to offer that at this time. But 9 out of 10, they offer you the extension. All right, so ask for an extension. Don't just wait, and be like, oh, I'll deal with it when I can. Because that's an expensive problem, y'all. The problem gets a whole lot more expensive. All right. Okay. So when it comes to navigating audits, I'm just going to touch on this a little bit. It can get a little more extensive on that. When it comes to navigating audits, one, you want to understand the type of audit you're in. You want to make sure that you get the tax return reviewed. And this is essentially what I am doing when I'm assisting my clients. So when a client comes to me and they're like, hey, I think I'm in an audit with the IRS. I think the IRS is auditing something. First thing I do is I want to understand what type of audit that we're dealing with. Okay, the next thing I want to is it having to do with an office? Is it having to do with a business? Is it having to do with a home? What type of audit are we dealing with? The next is to review the tax return thoroughly. So I want to make sure, hey, are there any errors in the tax return? What were the forms that were attached to the original tax return? Was the tax return amended? Like, I want to understand the tax return thoroughly. So I'm going to review the tax return. After that, I'm going to make sure I communicate with the client because and make sure that we communicate on anything that needs to make sure that we are on the same page about need to be communicated so that we can go through the audit process smoothly as possible. I want to make sure that I get all the documents necessary. Hey, they're auditing Schedule C, line item 20. So I need everything that's going to back up line item 20. Hey, Mr. Client, within the next week, I need you to send me this, that, and the third. And that's why it's important to make sure that you have your documents. All right. That's why it's necessary to make sure that you have the documents organized, because I love when the clients pop up and they're like, oh, here's this PDF file, or I just uploaded the documents necessary for the audit. Like, music to my ears. You say the sweetest things. Because what? You're so organized. No, but make sure that you have your documents together, y'all. Okay. So, and then for you all out there, make sure that you hire a professional, a knowledgeable professional. Okay. Hire an enrolled agent, a CPA, a tax attorney that's going to help you navigate through the audit period. Okay. Effectively. Representation. Proper representation is key, is highly recommended. Okay. So making sure that you have, the person that you have representing you is going to represent you properly. Okay. Uh-oh. What's going on? Okay. I think we're good. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this technology. Okay. The next is avoid giving the IRS unnecessary information. Okay, don't just go volunteering additional information. Okay, if they ask for information for line item 20 on the Schedule C, don't go giving them line 10 through 12. Okay, give them what they asked for. Don't go digging yourself a hole just because you're like, well, I just need to get all this off my chest. Give them what they asked for, and that's it. Okay, don't offer additional information. Okay, leave it out. They don't want it. They didn't ask for it. They don't want it. Okay, if they ask for line 20, give them the information for line 20, not line 10 through 12 and 20. Okay, like, I'm serious, y'all. Y'all be digging yourselves in the extra hole. Okay. Hello. Oh, I'm finally seeing y'all messages. Oh my gosh. Hey, Reggie. Hey, Tina. Hey, Denver. Hey. Why am I just not seeing these messages? See, I had to refresh the thing. This whole time, I didn't know y'all was talking to me. Hey, y'all. Hopefully y'all are still here. But yeah, okay. Don't go offering additional information. Relax. Y'all be doing too much. All right. But ultimately, how do you go about avoiding future issues with the IRS? Making sure that your tax return is filed accurately and correctly, okay, by a knowledgeable professional. Like, because y'all be going to your hairstylist to do your taxes, and then you're like, oh, the mechanic also does taxes, so I'm gonna go to the mechanic during tax season. I know you want to support Cuzzo, but you want to make sure that, hey, that you're properly represented. Okay, and that the person that's filing your tax return, especially if you're a business owner or 1099 worker, like if you do any gig work, 1099, business, all that, there's just so many errors when it comes to those tax returns. Like when I tell you through May through the end of the year, it are mostly clients coming in that need amended returns and stuff. So yeah, from others that, didn't do the tax return properly and things like that. And they're like, hey, so and so did my tax return. Can you fix it? Or this and this happened. Could you fix it? We can avoid that if we do it right the first time, right? All right, double check credits and deductions. Report all income, including the side gigs, especially if they have 1099s. All right, and make sure that you are using the IRS online tool. Where's my refund? Get my transcript. If you do not have an IRS portal, get one. Okay, I need to repeat that for the people in the back. Okay, if you do not have an IRS portal, if you do not have an irs.gov online portal, go to irs.gov right now. Right now. It's okay if you log off this live right now because I want you to make sure that you have a portal with the IRS. Go and get you an irs.gov portal, log on, do the identity verification, all that. Get your portal because within there you can see any payments, you can pull your transcripts, you can see all your notices that the IRS has sent to you. Y'all, if you do not have a portal, you behind the curve. All right, make sure you have an IRS portal. Make sure that you are taking a look at the IRS website, their resources. Where's my amendment? Where's my refund? Get transcripts. Look, we are in a digital age. There's no reason why you can't pull up your own transcript. Okay, I'm just saying. But ultimately, make sure that you have strong representation and strong record keeping. All right. I know this one ran a little longer, but thank you, y'all, for tuning in with me for another episode of Sipping Wealth Live, where I bring you news, tips, and tricks on how to wealth up. I will see y'all tomorrow for a special edition of the of another live. So I'll be live with Yasha Wells. She is a real estate professional in the local Jacksonville area, also deals in the St. Augustine area as well. But she'll be live with me speaking on the wonderful Wealthy Brunch that is coming up on December 14th. And we are going to be in the Jesse DuPont Center downtown Jacksonville on December 14th. We'll have panels, we'll have guest speakers, we'll have activities, we'll have a catered lunch, and we'll definitely make sure we have those mimosas going as well. Make sure that you go onto the Eventbrite and grab your tickets ASAP. It will be a sold out event. I'm super excited. But yeah, y'all go ahead and get your tickets. It's gonna be magic. Super excited. Alrighty, y'all. Like I said, thank you. Let me take this off. Okay. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see y'all next week.